Yo, what's up, everybody? So check it out. Check it out. So we got an extra special guest here, Alex Feinberg. If you guys are on Twitter, he's all over the place. As far as he's being tweeted by everybody, he's a diet expert on telling people how to diet without dieting.
That's right.
That's awesome, man. So he's in town. We're going to go to dinner with somebody very, very, very well known in the area, which is really cool. I'm really excited about that. But what's really cool is we decided to do a little podcast here. We're at my office, which is great because I have home court advantage. So any questions you guys have, ask them right on the side right here. We can read them when we get done talking about the topics we have. But let's rock and roll, man. How you doing, man? How you loving Nashville? You gonna move here yet?
Well, I have lived here. I actually have more years in Nashville than you do.
Yeah,
but got a couple more to catch up to.
Yeah, but I was here during the pandemic year, so I win.
You get a multiple? You get a 2x multiple for that?
I think you do, 2 to 3x. By the way, I talk really loud, so you need to stand close to the microphone.
Okay, that's cool.
Or else all they'll hear is me screaming, and they'll be like, "Where did he go?"
I love Nashville culturally.
That's amazing.
It's a little bit humid in the summer. That's the only thing is when I came here a couple months ago, I was like, man, this is really sticky, but I like it here.
That's what she said.
Ah.
So it's a trade-off. Like you look at Florida, humid, Texas, humid, Nashville, humid. With humidity comes freedom. So that's the direct correlation.
Is this correlation or causation? Do we know?
A little of each. I think
Okay.
Being humid makes you more likely to vote for freedom. And when you get that weather like California, it makes you like communism because you get too comfortable with your surroundings. I think that's exactly what happens. Speaking of communism, you see the CDC putting a useless shot in kids. Like I can understand. No, I can't. But like adults, all right, I get it. But literally, there's not one shred of data showing that it helps kids. And also, you'd have to keep doing it. And that's why they never mandated the flu shot.
Right.
So now they're like, okay, we're going to put an unapproved mRNA shot, and we're going to give it to these kids. And I think everybody's lost their godforsaken minds.
Well, I think, the older I get, the more it's obvious that there's no adults in the room. And if there are, they're very corrupt and trying to serve their own agenda. And so I think gone are the days where people can say, oh, this is the expert. These experts are smarter than me, so I will trust them. Like we can all do math. We can all read the same studies that they can read. And yeah, I'm not an epidemiologist. I can't understand certain things to the level that they can, but I'm good enough at understanding math to know when they're lying. Mm-hmm. And if I understand math well enough to know that they're full of shit, then am I supposed to believe them? Because I trust math. Math is always right. Math is never wrong.
I'm happy we're in Tennessee and Bill Lee's like, our governor is like, nah, we're good on that. Like you get into kids and that's where you either have to move or you have to homeschool. So if you're in a state like California, like I cannot think of one reason to get this anywhere near children. I can't even think of a reason anymore based on the new data to give it to adults. But the fact that we keep getting these new studies that are showing what the studies are showing, and they keep doubling down. That's what's really fascinating to me. And that's where my red flag goes up, because we've literally gotten to a point where the studies have shown that this doesn't stop transmission. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't stop you from getting it. And there's no proof that it makes you get less sick. There's none. They're just saying it does. They have some correlative quasi data, but there's no real data on it. Yet now they're like, okay, kids need to have it to go to school. And I'm like, there's absolutely, this is a clown world. And anybody who would willingly put this inside their children. Now I understand at the beginning, everyone was scared. But we've had plenty of time to digest the data. We'd have plenty of time to look at the IFR rates in kids. There's no reason why this should be going on, yet it is, which leads me to think that it's nefarious.
Yeah, and that was my takeaway last year, where the White House comes with a mandate that I disagree with, or at least creates incentives to for private companies to create their own mandates. Say, well. A few months later, more data comes in, and this time it's regarding the efficacy of natural immunity relative to the shot. And okay, new data enters the picture, but the existing game plan doesn't change. And anytime that happens, there's like two reasons. One, it's too large of a bureaucracy, and it takes 6 months to turn the direction of the Titanic and get everybody aligned to do that. Or their intentions are not what they explain that they were. And in fact, the agenda is not to keep you safe, but something else. And so even when new data comes out and says, this isn't necessarily more safe than that, and you're still preferring the thing irrespective of the new data, yeah, it shows that there's something else that is your priority.
So the question is, this is where I can't wrap my hands around it. What is it, right? Like, are they trying, is it depopulation? Is it financial? I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories out there that it's just one of those things where I don't know, are these people that evil where they would try to kill children? Are these people that evil where they will put financial gain over the fertility of children long term? I mean, so the question is, or are they just really scared, or do they really believe in their heart of hearts that this is the best thing we could do for society? And those are the questions I cannot figure out. And I've been racking my brain trying to figure them out. And I don't know what to think. Why would anyone, based on the data I've seen, and why would any parent willingly do this to their child? But then again, why would any parent?
Scared. That's because they're scared. They don't know. Like, let me.
So they're ignorant.
This. Let me articulate this because my dad hasn't quite figured out what's going on the left, and so I have to try to be the voice of reason to him. But the reality is, if you're actually reading the end studies, you're a step further than the people who disagree with you. The mainstream people who disagree with you haven't actually read the end studies. They're simply regurgitating what they read in the New York Times. So if the New York Times or a similarly situated publication filters out all the good stuff that you can read if you go to the end source, they don't actually think it exists.
So, and that's why they always slam us down, calling us Nazis. I'm a Jew. And conspiracy. I've been called a Nazi so many damn times. My grandfather, who escaped Auschwitz, is probably in his grave like, what the fuck, bro? Like, he's like, what? It's crazy because they literally like shout things that don't make sense. Like, hey guys, I really think we should think twice before we take this. Mm-hmm. You're racist. Oh, I didn't say we should let the black people take it first. I said that we should all kind of read them, like wait and see. See, I'm a wait and see kind of guy. I went over this on my live earlier on this channel today. It was one of those things where at the beginning, I'm like, I was the most excited. I remember I told my wife about 2 weeks into the pandemic, I'm like, dude, I can't wait till we get a vaccine for this and we can get back to being normal. And then it came out and I'm like, cool, man, they're going to start testing it. And then they're like, we're putting it out there. We're going to have the Trump's like operation, whatever it was. Warp speed. We're going to have I'm like, whoa, military. Whoa, wait. And then what really tripped me out, look, man, I'm a bodybuilder. I've injected a lot of things in my body, right? But I've never done it in a zoo parking lot. When they started giving people shots, experimental shots, and just, you didn't even talk to your doctor. You literally went there, put your arm out the window, and they injected your delt, which number one, I don't care how much rubbing alcohol you're using. If you're in a parking lot, that's not a real sterile environment. Like my thing was, if I ever get the vaccine, I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to go to Dr. Olive right up there in Brentwood. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm ready. Give me my shot. He like, okay, Mr. Lowbliner, give me the shot. And unfortunately, like that was when my red flag went off and we were literally, because like they do flu shot drives, but it's usually in like a controlled setting. You know, like they never did it in parking lots at Home Depot. Like it was just the craziest shit to watch. And they're like, you're weird. You're not getting it. I'm like, you're getting an injection of an experimental drug in a parking lot, weirdo. We're not the same.
Well, it's because they're acting out of fear. And so why would you act out of fear? Well, their entire life has likely been fear driven rather than.
You think so?
I think a lot of it, right? So you think about what you've had to do to be where you are in life. Number one, you have to have a fairly functional endocrine system, right?
Yeah.
Number two, you have to go through life with an internal locus of control. which is one big distinction between, say, left and right, and people who are university system inclined and people who are not. So the university system very much teaches this is what happens in the outside world. These are the stats. These are the data. And what good students end up taking from that is, wow, so much of life is beyond my control. And in the worst case situations, they're like, well, what's the point in even trying? So much is outside of my control. That's what the data says. That's what the science says. As an entrepreneur, I'm sure many times when you run your businesses, you've looked at the numbers. You're like, "Ooh, that doesn't look good. Fuck it, doesn't matter. Let's rock and roll."
Yeah, the Howard Hughes approach, right? If you've seen the movie Aviator, Howard, we don't have the money. Fuck it, find the money.
Yeah,
and that's something you do. I completely understand that viewpoint. I always as an America was always like the fuck you, don't tread on me society. And I think we've just become so weak and estrogenic that nobody was willing. And you know what really pisses me off, but makes me proud at the same time? The people who stood up to get masks out of schools and now are standing up to get drag queens out of schools, the women. If it wasn't for suburban moms, we'd be fucked right now. They were the ones at the school board meetings because you're messing with Mama Bear. And there was a 30-something% swing. You see this? Female suburban voters, like 30% swing to Republican, 30%, which is crazy because, we always say, I've seen this on Twitter. I've never said it because I honestly think women should vote. I'm one of those crazy fucking feminists, right? In that repeal the 19th, I'm sure you've seen that hashtag. But white suburban women are the reason the Democrats win.
Yeah.
And I think once you started going into schools, once you started doing all that weird shit with the books about pornography, Mama Bear's like, bro, like my wife, and you've met, my wife is at football with Preston right now. My wife was apolitical. Mm-hmm. I'd be in here fucking ranting and raving about bullshit because I have a business I have to worry about. And my wife, she works a business. She's like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. She'll pretend to listen. Dude, ever since 2020, my wife is following Robbie Starbuck. She's a subscriber to Daily Wire. She was so excited when I went on Timcast because she's like, I love Tim Pool. And I'm like, whoa, when did you become a right-wing zealot? Like all of a sudden my wife's QAnon. Oh shit, I said QAnon. We're about to get banned.
Can't say that.
No, I don't know. I don't know what we can say. They change it every day. And obviously misinformation. Misinformation is the new fucking word. If somebody makes a good point and you don't like it, misinformation. And that
misinformation is the new racist.
Yeah, and Kanye West is now a Nazi too, which is hilarious.
Well, he did make some pretty strong statements about
but
Jews as a people, not like specific individuals.
I think he was trying to get to specific individuals, but I think I don't think he was saying like old Jews, but let's be honest here. Like a lot of the people in charge, the Soroses, Weinstein, Epstein, so there's bad people in every culture. Mm-hmm. And here's my theory. There's bad Jews. And there's good Jews. There's bad Irish people and there's good Irish people. Okay, but Jews have the highest IQ of any fucking group, period.
So they're going to be overrepresented in both the good and the bad.
So Jews, when they are evil, they become supervillains. Yeah. Like fucking like on The Incredibles, they'd be like that kid who fucking made himself a supervillain.
Because you can't be a supervillain unless you're pretty smart.
Dude, I mean,
there's an IQ threshold for being a supervillain.
Yeah, they're not like Jews you don't hear about Jews you hear about Jews like doing simple crimes. Like Jews do the really complex crimes, like child predator rings. Like, I mean, and like look at Soros, and it's the perfect thing. Like, it's like, well, George Soros, that guy's kind of evil, right? You're anti-Semitic. It's like, whoa, what a perfect cover.
Right.
Look, I mean, let's be honest here. Kanye's probably been screwed by some Jewish people. And so he's like, man, I got screwed by some Jewish people. People are like, Kanye hates Jews.
No, he took that a step further. He was like, because I don't care. Say what you want to say.
I think Kanye's hilarious.
I played competitive sports my whole life. I'm used to people saying dumb shit to me. It's like, I'm not going to get offended by that.
Sports are the most racist things you can be a part of, by the way.
I have a Jewish last name, so Dad's Jewish. I can speak. Went on birthright. So that's my.
You did the birthright?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing till I was too old.
Oh,
nobody told me.
They were
my daughter's doing it.
Suspicious of me asking because I don't have a Jewish mom, so I'm like technically not part of the tribe.
They'll still fly out there.
Well, I was on standby, right? They called me in as
hold on.
Someone got hurt. You know, you got called up, so you got a spot on the.
It's just like being in the minor leagues, man.
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
So my daughter's already planning it. She's turning 17 in January. At 18, you could do it. And she's really excited. And also what's really exciting about the Jewish thing. So if shit goes down in the US and it just falls apart, so everyone in my family can move to Israel and get citizenship immediately, except for my wife. True story. So my kids and I, we're good. My wife, because she's a shiksa, she can stay her ass here and rot.
So 2 questions. To enter Israel, is there a vaccine requirement?
I think they got rid of it.
Okay. Second question. If things go to shit in the United States, why would they not go to shit in Israel?
Well, I'm just saying, if it does, I have it out, and that is go to Israel. But I'm guessing that if shit went to shit, Israel would go first.
Yeah.
Because, Israel's always getting fucked up.
Yeah.
Like the 7-year war. It wasn't it 7 years, 7 days. So the 70s, when they got attacked by 4 countries and they ended up winning, of course, they're still here, right? It's just a country where you have to, like, my mom was in that war. So I wasn't there, but I'm guessing she did pretty well. I mean, she's here.
They all can handle Kalashnikovs over there.
But yeah, I do want to go to Israel. I've never been. I just want to go for the food.
Oh, the food was like my least enjoyable. Actually,
Kugel?
Here's the thing. So I went on Birthright and I was like, I don't know, 28 years old. And one of the things on Birthright is we went to go see an artist. I forget what this guy's name was, but he just pretended to be super high all the time. He's like, the Moses was here like 6,000 years ago, man. And like everybody thought he was funny. And then at the end, he sold his prints to the people, line 30 people deep. Everybody's spending $30-$40 on a print. I'm like,
that's a Jew right there.
I'm like, this guy just made $1,000 in 30 minutes.
Yep,
like,
that's our guy
on like 98% margin products. And then there was another group coming right after us. I'm like, how many groups is he seeing? Like, this guy's probably making a few $1,000s a day, pretending to be like real high and spiritual and stuff. That's a pretty cool hustle that you got going on. I come home to San Francisco and my roommate at the time, who'd been on Birthright 2 years earlier or whatever, was like, oh, how was it? Did you get to see so-and-so? She names the guy. I'm like, wait, what? You went on a completely different Birthright than I did?
He's the guy.
And you went to the same dude. So this dude is probably cornering the market of all these rich Westerners who coming in. I'll give you $30. You're
Did you buy it?
I bought one. Yeah, I spent $30. And so the way I looked at it,
price.
Yeah, I figured this dude was probably making like $400,000 cash because the Birthright doesn't go all year round. There's only certain travel months. I'm like, this guy's making $400,000 a year in cash, pretending to be high, like talking to people a few hours a day, like 6 months out of the year. This guy's got a great gig going.
I love it. So I want to kind of pivot. So you and I both had like some health checks, right?
Yes.
So I had my blood work done. Thank God, came back good. Like I always, as you get older, like my doctor and I had a conversation. He's like, I want to look into having you on this and this because you want to live a long life. I have a really good GP. And so I found out my levels are fine. He wants my LDL a little bit lower because he's a doctor and that's what they're taught. So, we're talking about that. And okay, that's fine. So what did you find out on your tests?
So I went to my annual physical last year. So this would have been, I think, around last September. And, everything's good. I'm shredded, probably 4.7% caliper body fat, probably 10% on a DEXA or something at the time. Training the way I do, eating the way I do, low carb, high animal fat diet, high protein diet. And I remember leaving joking with him like, oh yeah, well, if it comes back saying I'm diabetic, we know it's like wrong. And it's like, whatever. And so I'm not thinking anything because I've taken labs many times before in my life and nothing has ever come up.
Real quick, but can't you have a higher glucose reading if you're on more of a higher protein carnivore style diet? I've read something about that. You might know more about that, but I have heard that carnivore people will come back with extremely high glucose levels.
I did not know that.
Okay. Cause I could be misspeaking. Guys in the comments, if you know anything I don't know, because I remember reading it. Because I remember like Baker got his work done and his blood work, Sean Baker, and it was his glucose was extremely high. And he had a reason for it. The same reason his LDL was high, because doctors are wrong and carnivores are God. So that's his reasoning for everything. So yeah, if anybody knows anything about that, let us know. But go ahead.
I'm sorry
to interrupt.
So I did some research on it, and what I found was that elite athletes actually have higher glucose than sub-elite athletes.
Because mine was on the higher normal end. Mine was in up to like 88. I think you can go up to like 102.
Oh, so this was a different test. This was a HB1AC test versus a fasting glucose test. And so basically what had happened was every year for my entire life, I had always had normal blood work. And then last year, when I was 35 years old, September, my doctor writes back and says, everything is within range except your blood sugar is in the pre-diabetic range. It's your HB1AC is at 6.0.
Okay, my glucose was 95. Normal range is 74 to 109.
Was there no HB1AC?
I don't believe I'm going to look. My insulin was 1.6, which was phenomenal. I'll look through it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So anyway, I look at this. My doctor, who knows the physical condition I'm in and knows how I eat, thinks the test is wrong. He's like, oh, well, you're Asian. So my suspicion is there's something in the way your blood is structured that made the reading go up. And so you guys are aware, 6.0 on an HB1AC is like squarely pre-diabetic. You're not like, maybe you are, maybe you're not. You're pre-diabetic in the United States and also in Europe. And so I'm like, how is this possible? Like, I do everything that you're supposed to do to not be diabetic as part of my lifestyle. And my last score that I took, 18 months prior was not in the pre-diabetic range. So I think one of the good things about having a very consistent lifestyle is it's very easy to troubleshoot things.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking back, I'm like, okay, so what has changed between February 2020, when I was not pre-diabetic, and September 2021, when I was? Okay, there's 4 changes. Number 1, I started working for myself. Number 2, because I'm working for myself, a little bit more stress, consuming more nicotine. And stimulants can raise your blood sugar.
So nicotine, do you use gum?
Gum or pouches? Yeah.
Okay, man, I really want to talk about that because I've been
get into it. We'll get into it.
I'm fascinated. I was listening to Huberman on that, and I used to know guys who did that. There's so many things I need to ask.
Okay, so a little bit higher stress, a little bit, actually a lot more nicotine consumption. And then the only other thing was I moved to Texas. And I moved to Texas, which meant my water supply was different. And I was drinking out of the filter in my refrigerator. But yeah, the water's different. I mean, my diet was the same, but the water I was drinking was different. And so the other thing is I have very low LDL, which is abnormal for people who eat as much animal fat as me.
That is abnormal.
I think it's genetic. Like even when I was fatter than I am now, I had like 58 LDL.
My LDL, no matter where I was in life, natural, on TRT, even when I was fucking taking a ton of steroids in 2013, my LDL has always been around the same. It's been high normal. Yeah. I've never been able to get it below the 125, 130 range. And now they say it doesn't matter. Some do, some don't. It's like there's so many different opinions to listen to on these things. And that's why it's so, and I understand why you guys get so confused on YouTube and everywhere, because shit, you watch my channel and I'm more middle of the road, kind of like a mixed diet, listen to your doctor type guy. Mm-hmm. And then you got Sean Baker, who's like opposite. Then you got the vegan guys who are fucking insane. So I can't imagine what it's like to have no knowledge of nutrition, go on YouTube and pull up these fucking fitness channels. And you're like, what the fuck did I just watch?
It turns out anything you want to do is the right thing to do.
Or the wrong thing.
Yeah,
it depends who you listen
to.
Wrong
thing to do. So I'm thinking, okay, having very low LDL is not a good thing. So I would actually like my LDL to be higher, because having very low LDL can lead to insulin production issues, or at least is associated with insulin production issues. And so I thought, okay, here are the 4 changes I'm going to make to not be pre-diabetic. And I was seriously wondering, like, do I have pancreatic cancer? Like that's very rare for someone who's 35, but like, so is somebody who's 4.7% body fat, who doesn't eat that many carbs, trains regularly, lifts regularly, to be pre-diabetic, like something's going on. So of those 4 changes, try to chill out, not put as much pressure on myself to run my business, tried to reduce my nicotine consumption, which I did by about 33%. And I started eating a fuckload of animal fat over a mild fuckload. So I went from a mild fuckload of animal fat to a mega fuckload.
Super mega fuckload.
And then the 4th thing was I changed my water source. I ended up getting a reverse osmosis filter.
We have that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started drinking from the reverse osmosis filter. You got to wait a few months to get a new HbA1c test because it measures like your trailing 90 days of what your blood sugar is averaging. So 4 months later, I get a new test. This fucks up my ability to get insurance, by the way. Getting private insurance are like, oh, you're pre-diabetic, we can't insure you. I'm like, fuck you guys. My doctor doesn't even think I have that. Anyway, I get a new HbA1c test 4 months later. All of a sudden, not only am I not pre-diabetic anymore, my blood sugar is lower than it was in 2020 when I also wasn't pre-diabetic. And so my blood sugar dropped my HbA1c dropped half of 1%, which is a phenomenal decrease. Like if my HbA1c was 6, now it's 5.5, and say it had done the opposite, say it went from 6 to 6.5, then I'd actually be diabetic. So the gap I was between where I was in diabetic to where I was in now was basically the gap between diabetes and prediabetes. So that's how much the condition has regressed and my blood sugar control has improved. And then, so once I was like squarely out of the pre-diabetic camp, I started not being so intentional about overloading my food with butter and overloading animal fat. I'm like, all right, I don't really want to eat that much animal fat. So that got cut out. My nicotine consumption starts to kind of tick back up again. I'm like, it's cool. I can get away with it. Stress levels from work pick back up again. I'm like, I'm not pre-diabetic anymore. I'm going to chill. I don't need to like worry about this. And so I go get a new blood test with this year's physical, maybe 6 months after I had the last test that got me out of the pre-diabetic camp.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent test, I'm set at the same 5.5, not pre-diabetic. So the only lasting change that I made of 4 was not to increase my animal fat consumption, was not to decrease my stress levels, was not to reduce my nicotine consumption. The only lasting change was drinking water out of a reverse osmosis filter.
So what in Texas water could cause that drastic of an what could cause that?
I have a hypothesis that some of the metabolites that are in the water supply are more densely concentrated, like the further you are away from the mountains. And I haven't thought that deeply about this. The BMI of both people and animals is lower at higher altitude.
Really?
Part of that could be the oxygen, because the oxygen is different. So there's definitely something about living in the mountains that leads to lower BMI.
Also, cities, you think they would eat more processed food. So, I mean, higher altitudes, I would imagine people eat more Amish type stuff, right? Like, could it be?
But animals too. So it's not specific to humans.
Animals love McDonald's, man.
Anyway, like, I don't know what exactly was like might be in the water, but literally the only thing that led my blood sugar drop half of 1% in 1 year, the only lasting change was switching the water that I consumed to have it be filtered by a reverse osmosis.
That's insane. Well, I mean, it shows you that if you're going to make an investment in your house, putting a reverse osmosis filter in, they're expensive, but we didn't even move in here. We got our filter put in before we moved in the house. That's how important it was to us. So we have a softener and we have a reverse osmosis. Softener is for showering. A softener is going to pay off in the long run because you won't have your sinks and shit won't get fucked up from all the hard metals and stuff in the water. Mm-hmm. That just goes to show you what's in your water. It's there's enough stuff that over time it will rust and corrode your metal. That's going into your body. Think about it. So we have reverse osmosis. It's the first thing we put in here. That and a security system. So that's how important the water is to us. Don't get me started on fluoride in our water supply.
I turned that down with my last dental visit.
No
fluoride.
Well, I mean, I think you'd have an acute fluoride, but just ingesting it daily and daily. And also the healthier you are, the more liquid you drink. So for me as a bodybuilder who takes in probably 1 to 3 gallons of liquid a day, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That is, it's not a big dose. Well, what if you're drinking water like I am? That's a huge dose. And I don't know if it's true, but you remember that rumor that Hitler put it in the Jews' water supply? Because it makes you docile and weak, and it takes away your ability to question things and some crazy shit like that. Mm-hmm. It's a thing.
That's actually plant-based diets. They do the same thing.
But you're gonna, I don't want that, dude. Last time I had you guys who watching this on YouTube kind of probably remember I had that little battle with Vegan Gains. And I get more death threats from these crazy fucking vegans
because they're crazy.
They're insane. And the thing is, it's been shown that a vegan diet leads to mental issues because you're lacking these nutrients. I mean,
look, all of the offensive things that I noticed when I was living in San Francisco, they all turned out to be true. I was just like, I really, really think that it's not correlative. I really think that their lifestyle's causing them to be crazy.
Yeah, it's there. At the end of the day, I do believe you can live a healthy life as a vegan, but not optimal. You have to supplement. You have to be very diligent with supplements. And that's the thing, is that you can live on an all meat diet and not need supplements to sustain. You cannot live on a vegan diet and sustain without supplements. You can give a baby an all carnivore diet. But if you do it, you just saw a couple weeks ago, a woman got sentenced for child abuse or whatever because her baby died because it was on a vegan diet. Humans are not meant to sustain on only plant-based foods. That's why it's absurd in this push for veganism that they're trying to get to save the earth when they're fucking, I'm not going to use the R word. They're mentally disabled. Because here's the reason: when you plow fields, when you plant plants, you're killing a lot of animals. Sure, they don't have those cute little eyes like this, but yeah, they do. Bunnies. You're killing a lot of bunnies and mice. Sure, you're not killing cows, but you're killing insects and mice. You're taking away their habitat. Dude, there is no such thing as humans being able to sustain without killing other things. It just is what it is. So we either kill them to put crops in a field, or we just kill them and eat them. I mean, there's no way to get around it. Like, humans are just we destroy shit, but it's the food chain. We're at the top of the food chain, and it is what it is. So, dude, yeah, vegans, they're nuts, but I don't think, again, you can be a healthy-ish vegan, but you can't be optimal.
Well, and I think maybe 5% of vegans will actually be diligent enough to supplement at the level that's necessary to.
I can't even get people to take a fucking multivitamin.
Right.
You expect people, I can't get people to drink enough water. You expect these people to wake up and, I need my B12. I need my DHA and EPA from seaweed extract. No, it's just not possible. And you're going to have a weak and a mentally deranged population if we start pushing towards veganism. Yes. And we're all going to have man tits like Bill Gates.
Yes, of course.
And look, man, there are some really jacked vegans, I want to say, because people are going to be like, dude, there's this vegan bodybuilder who's better than both of you. Yeah, I'm sure there is.
But if you put the same level of work into a vegan diet as you do for bodybuilding prep, then you probably can have decent success with a vegan diet.
Absolutely.
But what percentage of the population is willing to do that? Less than 1, right?
Yeah, Gen Pop, I'd rather, if I was to choose like an extreme diet, vegan or carnivore, which I'm not a huge fan of either. I'm going to choose carnivore any day of the week, because at the end of the day, I could give someone fatty meat, a couple organ meats a week, and they'll be fine. Like, they might not have great pumps, and nobody cares about pumps. Like, look, man, the way I like to operate, the way I like to perform, there's absolutely no way I'll be able to do it on a carnivore diet. I mean, it just is what it is. However, for the average person who sits at an office desk and doesn't fucking move all day, and I do believe the human body needs fiber. I like fiber. I'm a fiber guy. All the studies on fiber show it increases longevity. There's not one study on fiber showing that it makes you die.
Are they isolating for like, how do they study that? Because here's my hypothesis for why some of these extreme diets work for the people that they work for is I think that they're actually allergic to something that's in
Bingo.
everything else.
And the thing is, meat is extremely hypoallergenic. It's about the most hypoallergenic thing you can have, that and rice. That's why I think people are having such great success with the vertical diet, Stan Efferding's diet. Okay. It's basically low FODMAP veggies and fruits.
Yeah.
And white rice, which is fucking hypoallergenic as fuck, and beef. It's a simple diet that takes away inflammatory foods.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, gluten, as much as I love toast, I will do many, many, many weird things for a good piece of toast. But here's the thing, like, I can't sit here and say that gluten doesn't have inflammatory properties. Your body cannot digest gluten. It just can't. It's 2 amino acids that when together, your body just doesn't know what the fuck to do with it. I still enjoy gluten. I like gluten. I'm going to eat it. I deal well with it now. But if I had an inflammatory issue, if I had some sort of a flare-up of something, I would probably go on more of a carnivore-based diet because... And maybe throw in white rice, more of a vertical diet. So if you have an inflammatory response to something, yeah, I think a beef and rice diet would probably do you well. Throw in a couple slices of liver a week and you're good to go. But last thing I would have you do is eat a fucking vegan diet.
Right. Because
then again, most people can process all this shit just fine. But again, I think people like Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, like she does very well with the carnivore diet because she has an inflammatory issue.
Autoimmune issue.
Yeah, an autoimmune issue. So it's like autoimmune would lead to inflammation. So they work hand in hand. So, you know, I'm again, like that's the problem with being neutral without being in a camp is that none of the shit I do is very marketable. It's like, hey, what do you like? I like carbs, protein, and fat. What? You like, Dulce diet. You ever see that guy, Mike Dulce? Mm-hmm. Same shit. He's like, hey man, I like fucking carbs, veggies, fruits, and meat. People are like, you're insane. So balanced diet.
Maybe I'm just lucky that I don't happen to like vegetables that much. I like fruit smoothies sometimes, but I don't really like.
Nobody likes vegetables, dude. We eat them because our mommy told us to.
No, women like vegetables. I'm convinced also that the amount of women that I know my age with gut issues is like 50% or more.
My wife does not like vegetables. I think she's a man.
So like gut issues are very, very present in women. And I've also noticed that women like vegetables more than guys do, right? I think it has to do with muscle mass. I think the more muscle mass you have, the more your body's naturally going to crave protein-dense food sources. But women with less muscle mass, they're going to crave vegetables and rabbit type food.
It's fascinating yet understandable. I like that.
Yeah. And so I think that a big reason for women having the gut issues that they're having is actually due to the amount of vegetables that they're eating that are sprayed with glyphosate or whatever, whatever Monsanto products are out there.
It's a dose duration thing, right? Like we were talking earlier about seed oils. And I think if you have a seed oil based diet, right? Like let's say all you eat is fast food and the McDonald's French fries. Yet if you have peanut butter where you have microgram amounts keeping your peanut from separating, no one's going to get issues from that. But so it's kind of like water, right? It's beautiful reverse osmosis water. By the way, if you're thirsty, here's your cup.
Thank you.
You look like you're perched. But anyway, so nothing works unless you do. We trademarked that shit. So anyway, so you can overdose and die from water. Hypernatremia, right? Yeah. So there's a dose factor, right? Tylenol, you take 2 of them, it gets rid of your headache. And honestly, it's very low hepatotoxicity, very low. You take 10 of them, you'll probably be in the emergency room with hepatotoxicity issues. I talked to an ER doctor, a good friend of mine. His name was Mike Smith. What a very non-originative name in Illinois. And he was an ER doc. And he said, there's no way they would ever approve Tylenol now because of the hepatotoxicity. But the level of between 2 pills and 7 to 10 pills is great versus death. or liver failure,
Mm-hmm.
or having to go and have an IV to clean out your liver. So where I look at is seed oils, because people look, they're like, oh my God, there's this in your product. I'm like, yeah, but it's less than 0.02% of the product, but still it kills people. I'm like, okay, what I'm against is just vilifying, like high fructose corn syrup. You know what? Would I purposely drink a high fructose corn syrup beverage? Like, no. But if it's in there as part of a flavor system or part of an excipient, or if I just want a cookie with some fucking corn syrup in it, at the end of the day, you want to be about 90% right. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, you don't have to be over the top. You don't have to be, I'm going to take out all of this, all of that. There's certain things like trans fats. Yeah, you want to kind of avoid them for the most part. But if you get a couple hundred milligrams of trans fat, your heart's going to be just fine. But if you get 10 grams a day for 2 years straight, you're fucked. So there's a dose and duration. It's like, it's kind of like what I look at with what could be the potential problem with the spike protein. I hate to bring this up, but the problem is when you get the shot, that spike protein stays there. So you get the C word and it hits you and then it's gone. But when you get that spike protein pounding at your heart every single day, pounding at your immune system, that's where I think we're getting a lot of the issues. Same thing with the seed oils and everything else. It's all about dose. So I hate when people vilify things because they're again, there's benefits to seed oils.
Well, let me take the counter of that, right? The counter of that is most people are not going to study nutrition at the level that we are.
Yeah.
They're probably only capable of knowing like 6 things at the same time. So assume that the average person eats with at maximum like 6 rules in their head, and of the 6, like 4 of them are contradictory. So that like there's not that many ideas about eating that people are going to have. So let's say you're right. Let's say that a small amount of seed oils has zero correlation or causation with downstream issues. Right. Well, let me tell you what the benefit of still avoiding seed oils is, even if you're wrong about seed oils. Does meat have seed oils?
No.
Do vegetables have seed oils?
They don't.
Okay. Do processed carbs have seed oils?
Yes.
Do desserts have seed oils?
Most likely.
Okay. So if all you're doing when you're going to the store is you're avoiding seed oils and you're not counting calories, right? You're going to end up eating a diet that's predominantly meat and veggies. And when you're eating less carbs, what I've found with the people who I intuitively eat with and talk to about intuitive eating is carbs act as a appetite multiplier, which isn't a big deal for somebody who eats on a very strict calorie counted diet. But for somebody who doesn't, the amount of food that they're going to eat is going to be predicated on their appetite. And so if you withdraw carbs from their diet, then they're naturally going to eat less, even if they're not trying to. So if you tell them that this one thing is going to kill you, even if it's not going to kill you, but that thing is included in all the things that lead to them making bad decisions, maybe it's okay.
Well, here's the problem though. Most people can't put the cookie down. So people, by vilifying foods, it makes people want them even more. A lot of the time, look, man, if I could tell people what I usually tell people, because people are weak. Okay, me, like I told you, I haven't had a food craving in 10 years. I don't empathize with people. I just couldn't stop eating. I'm like, shut the fuck up. First world problem, bitch. But I understand that I have no empathy because I don't have cravings. Most people just can't say no. So for that, it's usually where the If It Fits Your Macros came about 10 years ago, is that for a lot of people, being able to have some of what you love. And so basically fill the beginning of their day with chicken, veggies, healthy fats. At the end of the day, if they wanted a cookie, as long as it fit their macros, that IIFYM was what it was. I don't know. You're old enough to remember that.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And these people took over the internet and they took over the world. And Lane Norton is still, one of the guys. And then they changed it to flexible dieting, which is the new term. So basically, I do agree. What I personally like, what I personally have an attraction to is for most people, making protein the first thing you eat.
Yeah, which is what I do.
So if you have a meal, I used to save, like I love steak. So I used to, save my protein for last.
How do you love steak if you don't crave food?
I love steak. It doesn't mean I crave it. If there's a steak, like tonight, I'm eating a fucking steak and I'm going to enjoy every bite of it.
Okay.
I enjoy every meal I eat. I just don't crave it.
I see.
Like I don't need food. Like I could be like, oh, okay, whatever. A lot of times it's, I love kava.
Yeah.
I love kava. I go there every day if I can. And I usually do, but it doesn't mean I don't crave it. It's just if I have something to eat, I'm gonna eat something I enjoy. Mm-hmm. Craving would be like PMS shit, like I need chocolate. It's like, and that's the thing. My daughter actually is really based about that. She's like, my wife's like, I just crave chocolate. Like, Mom, you don't crave chocolate. Society tells you that PMSing women crave chocolate. And that was a fight I did not want to be around for. So I think at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where it's individual dependent.
Yeah.
For some people, you're like, hey, just cut this out. And they're like, cool, I cut it out. I lost my cravings. For a lot of people, I've found that their cravings don't go away. And for some people, like, for example, when I coach people, whether it's general population or bodybuilders getting ready for a show, I have two options. I have a meal plan, which is less flexible. It's still somewhat flexible. And I have macros. Macros would be meal plan. I give you a meal plan. Mm-hmm. This is what you eat. But if you don't want chicken, you could have fish. If you don't want fish, you could have beef. If you don't want broccoli, you could have green beans, whatever. You have your options. Whereas the macros are like, here's 3 numbers, hit them.
Yeah. And
for some people, you give them macros. For some people, you give them a meal plan and they lose their shit.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the person. And I lost count of how many people will start with one and be like, yo, coach, I can't handle this. Like, I got to have macros, and then they're perfect. So it's so person dependent based on their personality, based on their food cravings, based on their history, based on their past relationships with food. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really fascinating. In that my daughter had a tremendous time losing weight, and you see her now, she's shredded. I mean, my daughter has quad striations that can win a bodybuilding show if she was on
in like 12 months.
Yeah. And she went from, I think she played last season in the 150 pound range, which for her is not fat. My daughter's extremely muscular. She played this season 125 to 128. And the reason she was like, Dad, I eat barely anything. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then she figured it out herself. And I tried to help her, but you try helping a fucking 16-year-old girl, it's not going to happen. Right. So she figured it out herself. And it was the little things that she'd sneak in. Like she'd have, let's say Planta, which is our vegan, she loves a Planta. It's a vegan protein, plant-based protein, but she makes it into a sludge, like a pudding. Mm-hmm. And she'd put like, oats in it, whatever. But then she'd put chocolate chips. And I noticed that we were going through a Costco bag of chocolate chips. We were going through one of those like a week. And I wasn't eating them because I was prepping at the time for USA's. And I'm like, wait a second. And so, but my daughter didn't lose her weight by cutting carbs. Mm-hmm. She lost her weight by portion control. So for her, it was about portion control. But she made sure that she got her 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Mm-hmm. So that was easy.
But then maybe she did, in effect, get it by cutting carbs.
But she cut the carbs were where the calories had to come from.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's essential protein and there's essential fat, but there's no such thing as essential carbohydrate. So for someone like her who trains for 3-4 hours a day, who's an elite athlete, who power lifts and plays very high competitive soccer, that's someone who, what? We need carbs, but we need to time them. Mm-hmm. And she did it herself. Like she figured it out. She didn't go to Dad because she's not going to listen to Dad because that's just how it is. Now, again, that's just how it is. A lot of times we eat a lot of foods we don't think we eat. And honestly, I think fasting worked phenomenally for a lot of people in that it gave them less time to fuck up. Because a lot of people, they'll be walking to their desk, their cubicle. When I worked at Weider, Denise, who was our office assistant, she always had candy on her desk. Those little fun size trick or treats. And every time you walk by, you grab a Snickers, a little Snickers, a fun size Twix. Next thing you know, you have an extra 700 calories for the day.
Oh yeah. Most people they eat food like it's air. Like I don't have a choice. The air in front of me, I need to breathe it. Otherwise I'm going to die. People don't realize that food is different than air.
Self-control.
You don't have to eat the food that's in front of you. So for the people that I work with, from a diet standpoint, we just want to do protein dominant real food. Every meal, protein dominant real food. If you're not hungry, don't eat. If you are hungry, it's okay to eat. Eat sugar to the extent you crave it, but not beyond that. And be able to name every food you've eaten in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's it. If you've eaten ice cream, you've eaten ice cream, but be able to tell me that you ate ice cream. Right.
I think basing things is a lot of what Mark Bell's been promoting too, and I love Mark Bell, is center your meals around protein. I think that's the greatest thing. And the problem is, as a society, we've vilified protein, whereas the RDA for protein for guys our size is like 40 grams.
Yeah. So crazy.
I was like, Jesus Christ, that's like half of a meal.
I ate 20 ounces of steak last night. Like I had 125 grams of protein at my dinner.
Yeah. I mean, it's absurd, but if you were to just tell people to focus their intake around protein, then you'd be in a much better spot. And also, like, you got the whole food guys who go off about the powdered protein. There's actually benefits to both, because whey protein has an anorectic effect as well. So, eating in the morning for breakfast, if you have no time to get breakfast in and you're not a fasting person, but you get a little bit hungry, whey protein has a lot of benefits as well. So that's one reason I go for whey protein over any other protein, because of its anorectic effects, its high conversion rate to glutathione. That's why people go, just eat real food. It's the same thing. I'm like, eating real food's awesome, but you got to look at the benefits for all of that. And that's why, looking at the science, you never say this. This is another thing. Like, you never say proven. You never say this is the best. You say, well, it's demonstrated to have these benefits, because we keep learning new things. I'm learning new things every single day, and we all should learn these new things.
We should always learn.
I mean, unfortunately, but we get caught up in tribalism, right? It's like politics. Dieting's the first politics. Like, the first time I ever got a hint of tribalism was before I even gave a shit about politics. And I noticed that there was the keto group and the vegan group and the high carb, low carb, no carb groups. And no matter what data was presented, they would just laser vision. But you've seen the carnivore diet kind of progress, where now they're eating fruit. And I'm like, so basically now they're paleo. It's just because, I mean, or like, I was reading and I like Sean Baker a lot, but I talk a lot of shit about him because he's their guy. I really think he's a fascinating and brilliant individual. But he's like, yeah, these guys they're on a meat-based diet, they're on a carnivore diet, but they eat carbs around training. I'm like, that's the TKD. That's literally a 1990s fad diet. That's the targeted ketogenic diet. I'm like, that was Di Pasquale, Mauro Di Pasquale. So I've been around this game a long time to have seen shit come and go, seen keto come and go 14 times. But I love the fact, the carnivore diet, why I love those guys, why I owe them 12 blowjobs, is because they literally came out at a time when vegans were on a high horse. They had their stupid little Game Changers movie, and they were like, meat kills. And Baker's like, fuck you, I'm eating all beef. And he's not dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, geez. So I really think that we needed the carnivore diet to offset the crazy vegans.
It's like fascism to fight communism.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it was a net positive what the carnivore diet did for society. I absolutely do. Like, I am so thankful for that movement. And I talk a lot of shit because now I think we need to bring it back to the middle. But dude, they did more for bringing things back to the center than any other movement. Because again, when they came out, veganism was making a huge move. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. They're about to burn down all the farms with cows. And then I'm like, oh wait, they're doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Shit, we're screwed. Yeah, but it also, I mean, they were pretty based.
Should we celebrate by go eating a steak?
We should. So we got dinner plans, guys. We appreciate you. Appreciate you joining us. Yeah, we didn't get to any questions, but we'll do a follow-up. Yeah, we got this. Anyway, where can they find you, dude?
Oh, sorry. That question was for me. Not anybody in the audience.
Not for this guy.
Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Alex Feinberg 1. Feinberg. I don't know if you guys can see my name on there, but it's FEINBERG 1. Alex Feinberg 1. On my YouTube channel, Alex Feinberg. DMs are open. Got any questions? I'm a big believer in eating delicious food every meal of every day. We got to live aristocratically, right? So last night I had 20 ounces of dry aged steak. Tonight I'll probably have maybe 12 to 16 ounces of something similar. We don't have to eat sissy meals and go hungry to be shredded, right? Mark's a little bit more shredded than me, but when he tries a lot harder from a prep standpoint than I will ever try. I want something more sustainable.
Prep is not sustainable. No, it's not.
If you're okay with like this level of abdominal definition, but not quite this guy's, I can probably teach you.
I got that old man skin. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to this guy's been all over here. Thomas Maggio. Sorry we didn't get to your questions. I promise you next time we will. Anyway, guys, be sure to follow Alex. And if you're watching his stuff, me.
Peace out.
All right.